Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week I share insight, inspiration, and advice for quantum leaping into new levels of expansion in your purpose and mission as a visionary leader and wayshower. You'll also hear from other new paradigm leaders who share their inspirational stories and wisdom. If you're passionate about embodying your highest destiny and leading others through this great awakening into the next golden age, this show is for you. Hey everyone, I'm super excited to have as a guest to the show today a beautiful and amazing colleague and friend, Natalie Woodman. She is a medical intuitive channel, body consciousness master, psychic surgeon, and trauma-aware master Akashic consultant with 26 years of experience as a physiotherapist and body alchemist. She helps high-achieving fempreneurs align to their highest timeline by creating quantum leaps with ease through body congruence and quantum calibration to live the life and create the business they desire. Love, love, love that. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yes, yes. I'm already proud of myself that I pulled off that intro without messing it up. Anyway, I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm excited to have this conversation because the physical body is something that, I mean, when I was first kind of starting out on my spiritual path, so to speak, years ago, I found myself kind of, like spending more time in the mental space and in the upper chakras and not as much in the physical body. And I really I've experienced this with a lot of clients I work with as well. I feel like our physical body often kind of gets put in the back seat on these growth journeys. So I'd love to get into that, but before I do, I know that everyone listening will want to know more about this work that you're doing and what actually inspired you to do it.
Oh, well, to be honest, I just followed the nudge. I followed the sacred yes that I was getting. I got the nudge to go, you need to go and learn how to read your records. And I kept getting this message coming through. And I'm like, okay, I'll go and do it. And then I purchased the program, and there was so much resistance that came up within me, which was, of course, we all navigate that, right? And what was incredible was when I worked through that resistance and really started to work in the records, it's like, oh my God, this is a game changer. And then the next sacred nudge was, the opportunity to become a medical intuitive and a psychic surgeon, and to add that on top of the work that I, and the knowledge and the embodied wisdom that I have as a physio. So that really just brought everything full circle. But before that, I had already become aware of the importance of looking at health holistically from a really young age, and navigating injuries of my own and working through certain ailments, including burnout. And I had, the early symptoms of EBV. So that really got me looking at what is the message behind the symptoms or the condition, looking at sort of mental, emotional, spiritual aspects of those conditions to really see how I can bring things full circle to have full and lasting recovery, and to have like really abundant health. Health for me is so important. It's my number one value.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. For those who aren't familiar, EBV, is that what you said? What is that? What does that stand for?
Epstein-Barr virus. So yeah. So it was first, they first said, it may be Lyme, and that was already a massive wake-up call, because I was already working on myself holistically. I was doing everything, the health plan, the supplements, I wasn't eating any of the wrong things. But what I realized was that everything was so regimented.
Mhm.
And so there was an aspect to health that was almost fixed, like, oh, well, this is the recipe, let me follow it.
Mhm.
Rather than how do I really intuitively work with my body? What is my body guiding me and telling me is my way for healing, rather than the prescriptive way of someone else's way for healing?
Yeah, absolutely. And we many of us do tend to do that, follow something that's already out there that's regimented, which goes back to uh really just living in a society that promotes conformity,
Right?
right? And where there is a lot of inversion. Something that was coming through as I was listening to you share is also, tuning in not just what your body wants, but tuning in to understand, what are your deeper motives behind what you're doing too, right? Because especially when it comes to the physical body, a lot of people, well, again, living in a society, that promotes conformity, a lot of people might be primarily concerned with losing weight. And yes, optimizing our physical weight is part of that, but there's so much more to it than that.
So much more. And what I really realized is that sometimes the weight that our bodies are holding on to is emotional weight, or the aspects of the wounds or cellular trauma or memories held within the body that haven't been alchemized, that haven't been transmuted. And when those shift, like, the weight naturally falls off, because the body finds its own homeostasis, its own balance point that is unique for each of us, rather than the BMI way of going, oh, well, okay, this is your height, this is your weight, this is your weight range. And so I really find that the body finds its own equilibrium. And I found that with my own body and working with so many other women. So just after one session doing, some psychic surgery, going in, clearing out the core rejection wound that is really influencing things at that time. For some women, they actually end up losing weight fairly shortly after that session. And it's just beautiful to see how that unfolds in the most organic, natural way. No forcing, no, you know, having to focus on it. And I just love how that happens. I just love how women get to realize that actually working with the body in such a holistic way allows us to actually experience shifts in areas that we didn't even think were possible, or that were under our control, through actually coming back to ourselves, coming back to our bodies, or working with our bodies. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, it makes total sense. And, just over time, really kind of simplifying it, it doesn't always feel simple, but
Mhm.
in my experience, any form of resistance that we're feeling, whether it's with our body or any other facet of ourselves, is really because there is an unexpressed part of ourselves that wants to come forward, whether it's unhealed trauma or whatever else it is. I would love for you to share more with us about the psychic surgery again, because so many again, our medical model,
Yeah.
especially in Western medicine today, is really based upon just the physical body, which doesn't address the entirety of what it means to be healthy. So I'd love for you to just share with us more about the work that you're doing there.
Thank you. So we're in a medical intuitive reading. When I do psychic surgery, I'm really looking at the body holistically. I'm looking at what are the beliefs that are coming through, the core beliefs that are influencing the situation or the challenge that that person is facing, and they'd like to shift. And then I will also look in the body. The body will speak to me, and the body actually shows me where the core rejection wound sits. And that can be in an organ, it can be in bones, it can be anywhere in the body. And so then, as part of the medical intuitive session, I will go in, remove that wound, and then I will also be recalibrating the whole quantum body. Certain areas are going to light up in a quantum body scan, and those areas are going to differ from person to person. Particularly, it's going to be influenced by, what we're looking at, what is the number one thing that needs to shift right now in order for other things to follow. And so it's almost like the domino.
Yeah.
We're working with the dominoes. Like, what's that one core thing, one core belief, viewpoint, programming, wound that needs to shift in order for that person to experience the shift that they need, and create what they most desire. And within that, I'm working with the quantum body to create congruence. So invariably, there can be a big difference between what we see in the body, but then the brain consciousness will have another idea. So it's about creating harmony between the programming in the brain and actually the shifts we've made in the quantum body, so that those two can be harmonized. Because as well as I do, as soon as there's dissonance within the body, that creates the disease, that creates the resistance and the struggle. So in order for someone to experience a quantum leap with so much more ease, we have to create body congruence. We have to create congruence between what the subconscious believes, thinks, and is calibrated to, and what the body's calibrated to. So, during the psychic surgery, we'll also go in and I'll work with the brain itself. We'll see sort of the brain chemistry. We'll see, where, because sometimes there are also memories held within the brain that will be influencing and triggering that core wound that might be held elsewhere in the body. So it's coming at it from a multifaceted point of view to really create the harmony. And then I'll also work with the nervous system, because we know that the nervous system can hold so much fear. And when the body's in a state of fear, it can't relax, it can't reset, it can't rebalance, it can't recalibrate, and it can't regenerate. So it's really about bringing the nervous system also into a state of calm, so that the body can have that, I can breathe again moment. Because for so many of us, it's like with that pushing energy, sometimes the nervous system is also frazzled during that pushing energy, because it's like, oh God, what is she doing now? Oh, I'm not ready for that change. Okay, I know she says she's ready, but I'm not ready. So it's about getting all of you ready, all of you synchronized to be singing off the same hymn sheet. Because I know that sometimes in the past, like, my heart would be saying, oh, Natalie, you need to go and do this. But then the brain would go, but is it the right time? What if that goes wrong? And what if that goes wrong? And what if that goes wrong? So this is about how can we, one, reprogram and also introduce the highest belief that someone can hold at that moment, or that they could calibrate to, that will be in harmony with the body. So I'll give you an example. For someone who has the belief or the programming that they are not enough, through past experiences, through past beliefs, we remove the rejection wound. But also it's about recalibrating the brain consciousness, removing the trauma of that core belief, and also then showing the ego that here are examples of how you are enough. These are the ways that you have shown that you are enough, and then calibrating the brain in a way that's in alignment for that particular individual, because it's going to be different from each person to person.
Yeah, everyone's journey is unique, but this work that you're talking about can, if someone's ready, right, to shift, it can happen very quickly.
Oh, seriously, within one session, people can change significantly. They can experience so many changes. I'll give you an example. I had an incredible lady who came to see me, and before our session, she was exhausted. She had problems with eating gluten, and actually her throat used to close with very little stress, and her body was constantly in stress as well. And after one session, her nervous system had calmed down significantly, to the point that 80% of the time she could manage the throat closing, and the throat closing was reduced by about 80%, to the point that when it started, she could go, oh, okay, I can see what's happening. And she was able to start to calibrate her own nervous system to go, okay, this is only a little bit of stress. Let's breathe through this. And actually, she was then rewiring her brain after we'd reprogrammed the brain, because that's what you're doing when we're recalibrating the brain. There's an opportunity for the brain to reprogram, to choose a higher core belief, to choose a core belief that's in alignment with your highest timeline. And once we do that, then it's up to the individual to be really not cementing from a neuroplasticity perspective. It's like really rewiring the brain through habits, right? Yeah. So, and that's, in the moment by moment situations on a daily basis, to then be working directly with the body. To go, okay, yeah, okay. Oh, I am so much more aware of what's happening now. This is a little bit of stress. Okay, I can manage this. My body doesn't need to respond in a way that it feels it is highly threatened.
Yeah.
And so that moderation of the nervous system was so important, because that means her entire body gets to relax. That will affect how someone is able to sleep. Because if you're worried that your throat is going to be closing at night, or while you're eating, or during the day, your nervous system can't relax. It can't rest, which means the body doesn't heal. And so that shift to me is massive, because it opens up the opportunity for so many other things to become possible from a healing perspective. But what that also shifted, that one session, shifted the sister wound for her. She no longer had jealousy towards other colleagues. It influenced, her belief. It influenced her confidence with her work that she's bringing forward into the world, which is so beautiful. It's just wonderful to witness. And that's just one client. So to me, it's such a privilege, an honor, and a gift to help. Amazing.
Yes, and your work is so powerful. What was coming forward while I was listening to you share all of your delicious gifts with us, is that stress and jealousy and all of those emotions that you describe have a fear-based response. And there's a distinct difference between our ego mind and our soul's guidance, or our intuitive voice. What value does working with someone to forge a deeper connection with their soul's guidance have in the work that you're doing?
Oh, that's a great question. For a lot of women, I will bring them back to the truth of what the body has to share. And that deep truth actually helps them to connect with their soul on a much deeper basis.
Love
And
that.
yeah. And so for a lot of women, the journey back to the soul is through the body. Because when you've had certain ailments, when you've experienced certain things, but you haven't been able to see it like on a multidimensional level, having someone explain and say, okay, well, this is what I'm seeing. This is where it is. This is the truth. Does it feel like truth to you in your body? And they all say yes. Because in hearing that, it's like they connect to the soul part of them. They connect to their heart. They get out of their head into the body and they go, oh, wow.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense because I mean, our physical body, that is the vessel for our soul, you know, and our it's essentially the conduit, you know, between the spiritual and mental realms and the earth plane, right? So what you're saying just makes so much sense. We just need more of you in the world.
And you know, the other thing I love is that in recalibrating the body, in removing these wounds or removing where there's disharmony within the body, as I recalibrate the quantum body, we also are rebalancing the life force chi energy. So we're restoring the body to its optimal level so that then where someone has had, you know, problems with energy levels, we can restore the chi to the body. But then the integration sometimes takes time because, as you know, the quantum body is etheric, it's light, and the physical body is dense. So that integration and embodying period, as someone is recalibrating, varies from person to person, depending on how much we've shifted. And also it depends on each person's body and the level of integration of the calibration that they're able to accept and tolerate without the body going into crisis. Because what I don't want is for anyone to have a healing crisis as they're integrating. But having said that, sometimes when we integrate, the body will experience physical symptoms. And sometimes that could be a physical purging of the energetic purging that's happened. Does that make sense?
Totally. You know, sometimes there are physical symptoms, but there's also a mindset that who knows how, but somehow like ingrained in the personal development and healing industry, you know, that there has to be a healing crisis, that your journey has to be long and painful and drawn out. And while there are some of those experiences, right? It can happen with more ease and grace.
I think it can. And I think the more aligned someone is to collapsing time, the more aligned someone is to this can be easy, this can be quick, this can be efficient and precise. And this doesn't have to take weeks, months, or years. So much more is possible.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd love to get your advice around, or sharing your advice with the listeners around our, you know, there's just a lot going on in the world without going into the specifics because that would be another few episodes. But just to say that at a collective level and an individual level, humanity is experiencing significant shifts. So my question is, what would be your advice around how someone can most, you know, efficiently and gracefully navigate their ascension right now?
Great question. I think it's really getting to know what lights you up. It's getting to know what brings you joy. It's getting to know what helps to reset your nervous system. So I'll give you some examples of what that might be for me. And it could be spending time in nature. It could be going for a walk. It could be sitting in the garden, enjoying some sunshine with a cup of tea, with your feet, you know, if it's warm enough, on the grass. It could be connecting with a beautiful friend. It could be embodied dancing. It could be meditation. It could be breathing. These are all ways of coming back into the body, of creating a pause or a moment of stillness where you can hear, and I mean really hear your body, hear the intuitive wisdom that's being shared with you. And we can only really hear when we are quiet, when we are calm, when we are centered. And we know that nature has that effect on so many of us. It really brings us stillness, and animals have that effect as well. So it's whatever brings you back to you. And so for me, it's being out in nature, it's embodied dance that really helps me ground and anchor into my body. And especially if you can feel that there is emotion moving through your body. So if you can feel fear, if you can feel of collective fear, if you can feel like there's an emotion rising within you that is ready to pass through you, but you want a way to release. For some people, that might be writing, tearing the page up. For, you know, others, they want to do that and then dance. Others, you know, breath work and just breathing or being in stillness. For me, I like breathing. I'll work in my records, and then also I'll be in nature or I'll do embodied dance. And so much can shift in just 5 minutes. Like one song is enough to shift and move things through. So, you know, that's the other thing. It doesn't have to take long.
And that's another mindset, you know, that is widely out there, you know, the transformation, again, that it has to take time. And it really doesn't. You could start with 5 minutes each day. And, you know, it's really just taking consistent steps forward, whether how big or small those are. That's really what garners the results that we desire, I believe.
So true. And the other thing that is really helpful is when you are thinking, you're not in your body. When you are feeling, you're in your body.
Yes,
so
true.
For everyone, you know, right now, it's so easy for us to be thinking about what's happening and to get drawn into that. And the more we can come back to our breath is a beautiful way of coming back into the body and into the heart. And the more we can come back into the body, feel your pelvis on the seat, feel your breath, feel the air coming in through your lungs, through the back of your throat, feel your rib cage move. The more you can connect tangibly with certain aspects of your body as you're breathing, that is enough to bring you into your heart and into your body to then be able to feel what's coming up for me today.
Thank you so much for that. Natalie, in closing, is there anything else that you're feeling guided to bring forward?
Our bodies are so beautiful. And I think for so long, I've always known the body's powerful, but the extent to which the body, you know, the body's power with the work that I do now, I really see that it is so much more powerful than I have ever believed. And our, you know, our thoughts, our beliefs influence our bodies internally. It influences how our body regenerates, how it can recalibrate, how it's restored. So if you believe your body can heal fully, it will.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many stories out there too.
If you believe your journey is going to take long, it will. If you believe it can happen quickly, efficiently, and in a short time, it will. And so whatever belief or thought you align to within energetic work that is the level to which you set an invisible ceiling or a cap on the capacity of the transformation that you as an individual are able to experience. And each of us influences that cap through our thoughts, our beliefs, our programs, our imprints, our ancestral imprints. And the more we look at that, the more we shift that, the more we can remove that invisible ceiling on health, on abundant energy, on how our business can look, on how we can show up as women in our businesses in a more a soul-aligned way without pushing or forcing. And also how easy it is to create and generate wealth in a soul-aligned way.
Yeah, absolutely. Natalie, so much wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on as a guest today. I deeply appreciate you. And if someone wants to connect with you, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, on social media, you can follow me on by Natalie Woodman, and that is on Instagram and Facebook. I do have a free Facebook group called Quantum Leap Lounge, and I do add quite a lot of value there with activations. And then my website is bynataliewoodman.com if you want to find out more about how to work with me. And thank you so much for having me. It has been wonderful having this conversation.
Oh, such a joy, such a gift. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Natalie.
A pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Awaken on Purpose podcast. Please visit me and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or at awakenonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can embody new levels of expansion in your purpose and mission as a visionary leader and way shower, visit me at jenniferspore.com.